I have got 3 questions that are, wow, look, all right, they are literally the same diagram that's been used, just with different labels. From Elegant, Darcel, from Luyanda Mpanga, and from Toby. So I've got all of these. I'm going to draw one diagram, and I'm going to have a look. We can go through each of the questions and see what is extra, because they ask the same thing over and over. Okay, which is what I was trying to figure out before I was switched over, not paying attention. Okay, so let's quickly do this diagram. This is the eye. Now, the eye is an amazing, absolutely amazing structure. Okay, it's this round thing. You got your eyeball. Okay, so I just want to modify here a little bit. Okay, and the front, we're going to just take this piece out there. So it does this. Okay, and we've got our very first layer, which is this layer here. And this goes all the way around and back. Okay. To about there, this is white. And this is the white of your eye that you see. And you must have seen in movies and in like horror movies and Halloween movies, you've got people and they've got this eyeball in pudding and all kinds of stuff like that. They've got eyeballs. Now, that's what eyeballs look like, except that they have a little thing coming out here, which is the optic nerve. Okay, coming out here, which means that at this point, there are no receptors. And this point here is called the blind spot. Okay, so just want to make this white cornea, sclera, just make it white all the way around. Okay, so this is the sclera. And the sclera is the white fibrous outer layer of the eye, and it's there to protect. And you know, when you have bloodshot eyes, it's not the sclera, because the sclera has no blood vessels. The blood vessels are in the layer below it. So I'm going to use, let's see if I've got a brown. You're not going to be able to see that. Okay, so we're going to have to just stick with yellow. So let's go with the yellow layer here. And this second layer that comes around goes like this. And this layer has a little blippy there. And then it goes and it extends into that structure. So this one goes and a blip. And then, okay. And this layer is also very important, because what it does is it stops any light, excess light, from bouncing around on the eye, because it absorbs that excess light. Okay, here we have a little body. Okay, and this layer here is called the choroid. And the choroid layer, this one, has pigment. It's actually melanin. Okay, and lots of blood vessels. Okay, that's the choroid layer. And the blood vessels that are dilated in the choroid layer will shine through into the sclera and give you that look of having bloodshot eyes. Okay, the next layer is an awesome layer, because this layer is absolutely amazing. So let me quickly just draw this now. You're going to go up here, and then you have a little dip there. Then it goes, but it doesn't go all the way through, it just stops there. And we have the same this side. This little blippy area here is called the yellow spot. Or you can call it the fovea centralis, just by the blind spot. I think this is, I can't remember what it's called. Okay, so there's the fovea centralis. And the fovea centralis is where we have a concentration of cone cells. And cone cells are receptors. So in the eye, in the retina, which is the part I'm drawing now, the retina has rod cells and it has cone cells. Think of K for cone and K for color. So your cone cells are for daylight or when there's light so that you can see color. And your rod cells are to be able to see in dim light. Okay, that's their job. So if you think about it, animals that are nocturnal, so animals that live at night, that go out at night to hunt, your nocturnal animals must be able to see in the dark. And if they are able to see in the dark, it means that they are not really worried about cone cells because they sleep during the day. They hunt at night. So they must have rods, lots of rod cells. So they'll have more rod cells than a human being, for example. And so that they can see in dim light. And something else, your rod cells, because they look at dim light, there's no color, so they can't distinguish color. The detail isn't great, and very often it's to detect movement more than anything else. Whereas your cone cells are for pure focus, clarity, perfection. I want you to do this tonight, guys and girls. I want you to take a t-shirt that's bright red or pink, or even if it's floral, and put it on a chair and go to sleep, or about to go to sleep. Put everything off. You're now ready to have a do time. And then I want you to have a look and take your shirt, the one that you know is there and you know the color of, and then bring it to your face and try and see if you can make out what color it is. And the only way you're going to know what color it is because you knew what it was before you put it there. Okay, so the color you cannot see. You need light to see color because cone cells are only stimulated with light. Your rod cells, however, are stimulated when it's dim. So the worse the light is, the better they are. And that's why nocturnal animals will have lots of rod cells, because they want to detect movement. And the minute they detect movement, they go shoops and they catch whatever it is, like an owl. Okay, something else is their pupils are going to be large because they want to let as much light in as they can, but we'll get to that now. Okay, so you've got the choroid layer, then you have this layer here, and this layer here is the retina. And the retina contains all the rod and cone cells. So let me just do this. And this will be the retina. And the retina, rod, and cone cells. And they are called the photoreceptors. And any image that you see is interpreted in the occipital lobe. Okay, so photoreceptors and the occipital lobe. And remember, photo means light. Okay, fine. So we got the yellow spot sitting here where we have a concentration of cone cells, and your yellow spot is your focal point. So if you look at anything, if I look at, if I look at my pen, okay, that will be my focal point, but I can see everything else around it. Okay, and that image will be on the back of my fovea centralis. Right. Let's get white. This little guy here is the ciliary muscle. And the ciliary muscle works with accommodation. 2 M's. Double C-O, double M. And that is when the eye needs to focus from far to close so that you can see the object properly. You then have accommodation. So your lens will set for distant vision or near vision, and that's accommodation, which we'll do now. Okay, so you've got your ciliary muscle, and then you've got little things that look like that, and you have, okay, and in here we have that. So these are suspensory ligaments. Okay, and they are also for accommodation. Okay, now remember people, ligaments don't stretch. Ligaments can't stretch. They just, a ligament is as stretchy as this piece of paper. So when the ciliary muscle relaxes, it pulls backwards. You relax, you sit back. And that's exactly what the ciliary muscle does. It relaxes, it pulls back, and it will pull the lens along. And when it contracts, it pulls forward, and the lens will then go around, and your suspensory ligaments will do this. So, but we'll explain accommodation later. And then this little guy here is your lens. And this little membrane around it will be the lens capsule. Okay? And the lens is always elastic so that it can stretch and flatten and do all the things. Then this guy is the iris. And that gap there is the pupil. So the pupil is nothing more than a hole. It's a hole. That's all it is. Okay, and then you've got the fluids. So in here you have the vitreous humor. And the vitreous humor is like a jelly. It's a gel. Okay, it's thick and gelish. And over here, let's use another color. Here and there. So in front of and behind of the iris, you're going to have the aqueous humor. And they all give shape to the eye. Remember, the eye's just made of fluid. So you stick a hole in it, all that fluid's going to ooze out and the eye will just deflate like a ball. Whatever. Okay, and I've left out here. This here is the cornea. Something else I want to point out is look at the shape of the cornea. It has this shape, okay? And that is a convex. And this would be a concave. So your cornea, if you look here, you see it goes all the way around here like that. It's got that shape. So the cornea is convex. And you look at the lens has got this side and this side, okay? And we say that it is bi, meaning two, convex. Okay, and if you look at the back of the eye here, it is also a funny shape, and this shape is a concave. All right, that's why we end up with, it's because of the convex shape of the lens that we end up with the image that we see being upside down at the back of the eye, at our yellow spot. Okay, let's do this one first. Okay, labels. What am I going to do with the labels? Gosh, I hope you guys can see this blue. But I'm going to put the labels in for this diagram now, and let's see. So they tell us that that is the iris, okay? And then this is, the pupil is B, and A is the lens, and C is the retina, okay? So it says state one function of part A and C. So what is the function of a lens? Let me think. The lens is elastic and will change shape depending on whether the object that you want to focus on is far or close. Okay, then for C. All right, if we look at the retina, what is the function of the retina? Well, that's pretty easy. The retina contains rod and cone cells, which are the photoreceptors of the eye. Okay, stimuli, light waves will be converted into stimuli, and the stimuli will be passed and sent to the brain. Okay, and at the corpus callosum, which holds the left hemisphere, the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere together of the brain, okay, that is where the optic nerve crosses over as well, because your optic nerve is nowhere near the medulla. So that's where the optic nerve crosses over, so that what you see with your right eye is perceived by the left side of the brain, and what is seen in the left eye is perceived by the right side of the brain. That optic chiasma crossing over is at the corpus callosum. But for your nerves, for your entire nervous system, the crossing over of the nerve fibers is at the medulla oblongata, clearly not for the optic nerves. Otherwise, you'd be seeing left, left, right, right. So, where's my... Never mind. I hope you... Okay, here they ask. Nocturnal animals sleep during the day and are active at night. Explain how part B, okay, B was the pupil, okay, B of nocturnal animals will differ from that found in animals that are active during the day. Well, the pupil is going to be much larger for nocturnal animals than it will be for animals that are awake during the day. Okay, so it's as simple as that. You'll say that the B, which is the pupil, will be large. Why? It's got to let more light in. Even though there's so little light, it wants to let as much light in as possible. People, do you know something? The easiest way to tell, and this is a first aid thing, whether someone's got concussion, if they've bashed their head badly, if they've got concussion, if they're drunk, so you don't know what's happening, and this person's like falling all over the show. You think they're drunk, but you know that they're very drunk when you can do the following. And if they're on drugs, is if you take even your cell phone and you just put the torch on and you just put the torch here to their mouth and away, the pupil will not constrict, because constricting of the pupil is a reflex action. Okay, it's a reflex action. You do it without thinking. You don't have to think, oh, hang on, I'm going to go from inside to outside to the bright light. And it's like these lights that I have in the studio. My word, they are bright. But I mean, if I look into them, I'm going to hurt my eyes. So, and the same with if you go outside. If you've been in a dark room and you now go outside, your pupils have to close and let less light into the eye, because you'll damage the retina. And if you are an animal that hunts at night, like I don't know, an owl, okay, and you go hunting at night, you want to catch that little mouse. Now, on top of it, mice are grey. I mean, how hard is that? They've got to distinguish them. So what happens is they are the pupil has to dilate. Now, when people are drunk or their nervous system is impaired with drugs, alcohol, whatever, okay, it doesn't, the reflex action doesn't work and it won't constrict. So if that pupil doesn't constrict, you know, something's wrong. Or if somebody is concussed, because depending on where the head is now injured, it's normally the occipital lobe, which is where sight, okay, where the impulses from the photoreceptors are being interpreted. So the pupils just don't constrict. Okay, and then you know, person's got a bit of concussion. And depending on how slowly they constrict to light, that will tell you how severely the person how severe the concussion is. And then you get them to a doctor. Okay, so where was I? So when we talk about nocturnal animals will differ from how C was your retina. How will the retina differ? Well, remember your rod cells are for dim light, okay? And they assist you to see in the dark. So they are going to assist these nocturnal animals. So you'll say the retina contains rod and cone cells, and the retina in a nocturnal animal will contain far more rod cells. Why? Because they are stimulated by dim light, and also to detect your peripheral vision and movement. Okay, and then, and how they'll differ from that found in animals that are active all day, you're going to say, but in animals that are active all day, they're going to have more cone cells. Okay, then describe how the iris controls the amount of light entering the eye when a person is exposed to bright light. Okay, let's do that. Okay, here is the iris of the eye. Okay, so you're going to have, there's the sclera. Okay, so that's the white part of the eye. We're looking at the eye from the front. Okay, right now, here's the pupil. And this will be the iris. All of you, every single one of you learners watching today, have a pair of tracksuit pants with a drawstring. Okay, I'm actually going to ask Becky to have a look in the studio if there is maybe a hoodie or something that's got a drawstring, because I want to just show you after we've had an ad break. But all of you have got a pair of tracksuit pants that have got a drawstring, or a pair of shorts that have got a drawstring in them. Okay, what I want you to do is, I want you to, when we finished with this lesson, I want you to go to your pants and I want you to pull the drawstring. When you pull that drawstring, you end up with, it's almost like a curtain. The pants around the drawstring are going to close. Okay, and then when you release the drawstring, it opens. So contract, relax, contract, relax. And that drawstring is the same as the muscles that work in the iris. So what we've got in the iris, there's the pupil, which is just the hole. And the reason it's dark is because you're looking into, just want to show you here, you're looking into this eyeball and you've got this retina, which is not very thick, but it's here, the choroid. And the choroid that contains this pigment, this dark brown pigment and blood vessels, that's what you see. And you know when people take a photo and you end up with, you got that red eye in a photo, when a photo is taken with a flash, that red eye is because of the melanin pigment that is in the choroid layer, just as a matter of interest. But it's the choroid layer that absorbs the excess light and doesn't shock the eye. So there you have the pupil, and you've got the iris. Now, the iris consists of different muscles. It consists of circular muscles. Okay? Those are circular muscles. And it consists of things that look like spokes of a bicycle that are called radial muscles. You see, because they like this. They look like radial tires. Okay. And these are radial muscles. Now, in grade 10, you would have learned that muscles always work antagonistically. Okay. And antagonistically means they work opposite. So if I take my finger and I contract these muscles, what happens to the ones on the outside? They must relax, otherwise my finger's going nowhere. If these muscles don't relax, this finger's going to stay no matter how much I pull here. So when these contract, these muscles relax. And then when these muscles contract, these will relax. Muscles work antagonistically. The same with breathing that you did in grade 11. Your external intercostal muscles will contract and lift the rib cage. The internal intercostal muscles must relax. Okay, so we have the circular muscles and the radial muscles, and these guys work antagonistically. Okay, we want the pupil to be small because we want to limit light entering it. Okay, because we don't want to damage the, just want to make this so I can write here. We don't want to damage the retina. We don't want to damage those little photoreceptors. Now it's as easy as this. Okay, this will be a C for you. So when the circular muscles contract, what happens to the pupil? Because this is where the pupil is. The pupil will constrict, and the radial and the circular muscles work opposite. So the radial muscles must relax. Okay, so the pupil will dilate. So this is how we're going to do it. We say that when the circular muscles contract, okay, the pupil constricts and the radial muscles relax. Okay, look here. The circular muscles contract, the pupil constricts, and the radial muscles chill out. So it's CCCR. How easy is that? Circular muscles contract, pupil constricts, and the radial muscles relax. When we look at when you go into a dark place, you're going to have exactly 100% the opposite. So you only have to learn one. Because if you know what happens when the pupil constricts and the pupil gets small when it is very bright, okay, what's going to happen? When it is dark or it is dim, exactly the opposite happens. So you only have to learn one because the other one is the opposite. So let's look. So this would be, no man, I don't want to use yellow, I want to use white. This is when it is bright. Okay? Now, when it is dim, what do I want? I want, let's do it this way. I want this pupil to now get bigger. So this is when it is dim. I want the pupil to get larger. Why? I want it to allow more light into the retina. Okay? Whereas here, with our blue set, here it is very bright. So we want less light into retina. Okay, we don't want too much because we're going to hurt the retina. So dim light, bright light. So here we go. Okay, so it's dim. We want to allow as much light into the pupil as possible to the retina. So what's going to happen? It's exactly the opposite. Opposite is going to happen now in dim light. Okay, the circular muscles are going to relax. The pupil is going to dilate, and the radial muscles are going to contract. So when the circular muscles relax, the pupil is going to also open up nicely. So the pupil will dilate, okay, and easy. The radial muscles must contract. They work opposite to the circular muscles. And there you go. So if you learn the bright light issue, then reading about or learning about the dim light, circular muscles relax, they don't contract. The pupil dilates, it doesn't constrict. It dilates, it gets bigger. Okay? And the radial muscles must contract because they're going to work opposite. How easy peasy. I mean, guys, really? Then, that was the last one for that question. Now, let's see here. This is Elegant's version. We go back. Okay, I'm going to remove the letters here. And I'm going to get another color, which I've used all the colors. So let's go with orange, and let's hopefully you can see it. Okay, this one says identify parts D, E, and F. All right, so ciliary muscle is A, and the lens is B, and C is this fluid, the aqueous humor. D is the sclera. F is the retina, and E is the yellow spot. Okay, it's according to this diagram. So all I've done is I've changed the labels. Do you see that? We've just got different A's, B's, and C's. But the labels are the same. The questions are going to be very similar. So it says identify parts D, E, F. So D is the sclera. E is the yellow spot, or fovea centralis, if you want to say fovea centralis. And F is going to be the retina. Okay, give the letters of the two labeled parts involved with refraction of light. Okay, people, remember, reflection is what you are going to see when you look at something that is very shiny, so a mirror, a fridge, any flat surface, a shop window, although mind you, none of us are seeing shop windows lately, but a shop window, okay? When you can see your reflection. So you are seeing whatever you are seeing in that flat surface. That is a reflection. The minute that surface is bent in any way, it bends the light, and when it bends the light, it's called refraction. So, let me think. Okay, all of you have got a spoon at home. No matter how rich or poor you are, you will have a spoon. I want you to take a spoon and give it a bit of a polish. Okay, so rub it nicely so it isn't completely blur, so that you can see. And I want you to look into the inside of that spoon, and then I want you to look into the outside of that spoon. And what you are going to see on the outside of the spoon is a very ugly you. Okay, that I can promise you. Because you'll be short and round and like expanded. You look like a little balloon. But that's going to be you. And you'll be smaller. And then when you look on the inside of that spoon, you're going to be upside down. Okay, why? Because the light is being refracted. So when they talk here about refraction, if a surface is round, it doesn't matter if it's not straight. The minute it starts to bend, it is going to bend light. And if we look at our diagrams here, your cornea, look here, look at the shape of the cornea. Okay, it's convex. Look at the shape here of the lens, it's convex. Although this side here ends up being concave to light that's coming in here like that. Okay, so convex, and this would be concave, but it's biconvex, means it's convex on both sides, but this side is still going to be concave to the light coming in. Okay, so give the letters of two labeled parts involved with the refraction of light. So here it would be the lens, which is B, and the aqueous humor and the ciliary body. Okay, but I don't understand why they say give two letters of the two labeled parts involved with the refraction of light. Oh no, sorry. It would be they don't label the cornea. No, they don't. Okay, so it would be B and it would be F, the retina, because the retina sits on the back of the eye here, and that shape here is, what shape is this? Come on, think about it. It is concave. Then, sorry, I didn't read the question properly. Please don't do that in an exam. Make sure that you read it properly. I think after this one, we're going to take a quick break so I can just get some water. Then it says the muscle labeled A, which was the ciliary muscle, can go into a spasm, which is a constant state of contraction. Explain the consequences of this condition for distant vision. Now, your eyes are, if you are relaxed, your eyes are set for distant vision. Anything that is further than 6 meters is going to be distant vision. So the worst thing you can do when you take a study break is to go sit in front of a television set. Okay, you must make sure that you are about 6 meters away at anything you look at. When you're studying as well in your room, try and make a point of looking out of the window every 15 or 20 minutes. Just look far away so you can give your eyes a chance to chill. Why? Because look here, your ciliary muscle contracts, and when it contracts, it pulls this way. So it will pull backwards. That is when it contracts. Okay? And that's very important, that contracting, because that will pull this lens long. And when the lens is long, there is going to be less refraction and light being bent than when the lens is round. So if the lens is nice and round, it's this nice little round, chubby little lens, there's going to be a lot of refraction. It's going to bend the light a lot. And when it is long, well, guess what? There's less refraction. And that is what makes you see far away for long vision, and round, if the lens is short and round, lots of refraction, so that you can take things that are close and make sure that they go onto the back of the retina. So just use this to help make sense of it. When something is far away, it's little. So there isn't a lot of squeezing and squashing and bending that you have to do to fit it into your pupil. But if something is close by, I've got my water bottle here. Okay, if this was 6 meters away, it would be this big. But if I bring it here, it's huge. Now I've got to fit this into my eye. Means the lens has to be very round so it can squish everything nicely and bend the light to fit it in. And it's not the correct way, don't please ever say that in an exam, but it will help you think it through so that it makes sense. A long lens, less refraction for things that are far away. A round, fat lens is to be able to see things close up and near vision. The muscle labeled at A, which is the ciliary muscle. Let's just get our colors here. The ciliary muscle, okay, can go into a spasm. Now, if that goes into a spasm, it's going to now be pulling backwards, and the lens is going to be set at long vision. Okay, so long distance vision, you are not going to be able to see anything that is close by. And I think that's going to be very, very, very tiring, because it would be like sitting in a sit-up position, half crunch, and sit like that for half an hour. Or you can just take even just your pen and hold it out like this for half an hour and see how you feel after a while. So yeah, your eye's going to be very sore, but you will not be able to see anything closer than 6 meters. Okay, and then it says, explain why shining a powerful laser beam directly into a person's eye can result in the loss of vision. Because you damage the retina. Okay, it's very silly to shine anything that's bright into a person's eye. And I know that very often when you're at parties or at gatherings of some sort or concerts, you end up with these idiots that sit there with these laser pens shining them into people's eyes. They are incredibly powerful, and it will really, really damage the eye. So people, you should not be looking at really bright things. Okay, there you go. Okay, so elegant, docile, there you go, question done. Okay, and then Luyanda, let's do yours. Your labels are slightly different. So let's just do this. So A comes out, C, B, D. I hope you see that the same things are asked all the time. So make sure that you know what we've done here today. Let's also go with the yellow, with the orange. It says identify parts B and C. So the iris is A in this question. The choroid is B. Okay. C is the sclera. D is the retina, and E is the blind spot. Okay, so it says identify parts B and C. So B would be the choroid, and C would be the sclera. So choroid layer and the sclera layer. Then it says explain the effect on a person's vision if E is cut. Okay, so what is E? E is your blind spot. Your vision. And this is where the trick is. Having the optic nerve cut, okay, which is, oh no, hang on, E is not the blind spot. Wait. E is the optic nerve. Okay, now, if you look here, this area here is the blind spot. The blind spot, you don't see anything there. So it doesn't impact anything, any conversion of a stimulus into an impulse, because there are no photoreceptors at the blind spot. It would be like putting furniture in a doorway, because your doorway here this is where all your nerves exit to go to carry impulses from the photoreceptors via the optic nerve to the occipital lobe of the brain. Okay, so if E is cut, your optic nerve is cut. It would be like blocking the highway. So if I went and I blocked the M1, I block the highway. Nothing can leave and nothing can go forward. You've literally stopped the movement of the impulses. So the person would be blind. Okay, they would not be able to see. Why? Nothing to do with the light rays going into the eye and the retina converting, the rod and cone cells converting the stimulus into an impulse. The impulse can't get where it's got to go. The impulse cannot get to the brain because the optic nerve is the route it must follow, and that has now been cut here. Okay, then it says part D can be damaged by very bright light. Well, we've already spoken about part D being the retina. In the previous question, they said if someone shines a laser light through the pupil, how would it affect the eye? The retina would be damaged. Those photoreceptors would be damaged. Your rod cells are to pick up dim light, okay, and your cone cells are for color. And here you are shining the most almighty light into their eyes. They'll be blind, okay, and probably end up with permanent damage to the photoreceptors. Okay, describe how part A helps to protect D in very bright light. How part A, okay, so that's A would be the iris, and they want to know how A is going to protect the retina in very bright light. Hello, what have we got here? Bright light. Ciliary muscles will so CCCR, circular muscles will contract, the pupil will constrict, and the radial muscles will relax. Okay, there you go. And less light will enter the eye, and less light will make its way to stimulate the rod and cone cells in the retina. In a condition called, let's go back to our eyeball. Okay, they say here, in a condition called presbyopia, presbyopia, lenses lose their elasticity and therefore maintain a rather constant flat shape. Now remember, the rounder a lens, the more it can bend light. The flatter the lens, the less light it will bend. Okay, less refraction, more refraction. Less refraction, more refraction. So if something's close, it doesn't have to be bent a lot to get onto the retina. If it is far away, it has to be bent a lot to get onto the retina. If it is far away, it's long vision, long lens. Okay, so loses its elasticity and therefore maintains a constant flat shape. Explain how this condition would affect a person's vision. Well, the lens would not be able to accommodate, which means that irrespective of whether the ciliary muscles here, irrespective of whether those ciliary muscles contract or relax, they're going to make no difference here to the lens. So I need space. Okay, so if we look here, there's your lens that's set for distance. So this is long-sighted. What am I talking long-sighted? Distant vision. That's for distant vision. And this is going to be your lens. It's going to be for near vision. If it's rounder, that means there is more refraction. And what does refraction mean? Bending of light. Refraction, bending of light. Distant vision, it's going to be long and flat. And that means there's going to be less refraction. Now, the lens is elastic. Okay? Normally, we have this suspensory ligaments that sit here. So those are your suspensory ligaments. Okay? In your rounder lens, your suspensory ligaments look like this. They slack. So here the suspensory ligaments are taut, which means they're nice and tight. And here they are slack. Okay, they slack. They look like someone with a bad hairdo. Sitting attached here is your ciliary muscle. And in this case, the ciliary muscle is pulled forward, okay, so it is contracting. So it contracts and pulls forward. Here, with the suspensory ligaments being tight, at least the ciliary body, okay, is going to be relaxed. Pulls back. Now, if this lens is not elastic, you are not going to be able to change its shape. Ever. Never. You can't change its shape. No matter how much that ciliary muscle contracts or relaxes, the ligaments are not going to be able to either stretch the lens or make it rounder, which means you would not be able to focus on objects at different focal points. Okay, so you would not be able to focus on anything. It would be set for, and it remains at, so it would be set for distant vision. You would not be able to see anything close by. Okay, nothing. And then it says, suggest the shape of the lens that would be prescribed by a doctor to correct this disorder. It's going to be for long distance, a biconvex lens. So it's going to be one that looks like that.